Hi everyone, we're going to find the derivative by the limit process. This is part 5, and these are the two problems we're doing. And we're also going to be using the conjugate, multiplying by the conjugate. And here is our derivative. So we start with the first one. We get started taking the derivative of x equals the limit as delta x approaches 0. And everywhere there's an x, I'm going to put x plus delta x. And then we have plus 1. And then you subtract the whole function minus the square root of x plus 1. We actually don't need the parentheses here on this one. Alright, all over delta x. Now the way to handle this is to multiply this by the conjugate. So we have an a minus b type thing. So we want to multiply it by a plus b, so we can get a squared minus b squared. This would be b in your a, this b in your b. Alright, so I'm going to take this, multiply it by the square root of x plus delta x plus 1. Then I'll put plus square root of x plus 1. Now since I multiplied it by the numerator, I also have to multiply it by the denominator. Okay, there we go. Now, so what we're going to get is the limit as delta x approaches 0. And when I multiply this out, remember we're just doing a squared minus b squared. And all that's going to do is get rid of the radical. So we're going to get x plus delta x plus 1. Alright? And then we're going to do minus. And that gets rid of the radical. And we just get x plus 1. And for the denominator, you got to write all this out. This is going to be delta x times the square root of x plus delta x plus 1 plus square root of x plus 1. Alright, and then we're going to clean up the numerator. When you clean up the numerator, you're going to get let's see. I'm going to go ahead and write it over here. If you clean up the numerator, you're going to get x plus delta x plus 1 minus x minus 1. So basically what's left is just delta x. So you have, when you do this, this is just going to all cancel out. And you're left with delta x. So you're going to have delta x over delta x times the square root of x plus delta x plus 1 plus square root of x plus 1. This cancels and gives you 1. Okay, now let's go ahead and plug in the 0. And when you do that, you get the limit as delta x approaches 0. If you plug in the 0, you're going to get 1 over square root of x plus 1 plus the square root of x plus 1. And that equals 1 over, we have 2 of these. 1 here and 1 here. So that's 2 of those. And that's your final answer. Okay, and the second one we were going to do is f of x equals 4 over square root of x. So we're going to take the derivative of x, f, by the limit process. Everywhere there's an x, I'm going to put x plus delta x. And then subtract the whole function. Alright? My common denominator is square root of x times square root of x plus delta x. That's your LCD. This is all over delta x. Alright, so we're just going to cross up here. So this is going to be the limit as delta x approaches 0. So you're going to have 4. I'm crossing these two. So you can have 4 delta x minus 4, not delta x, square root of x, 4 square root of x plus delta x all over your LCD, which is going to be, remember this guy can move up front there, can move up to this level. So this can be square root, delta x, and then I'm going to go ahead and write him first. So that's going to be square root of x plus delta x, and I'm going to put the the square root of x here. Too many delta and square roots. Okay, so basically I just put him back here. It keeps it nice and clean. Now, when you have that, what we have again is what we had in the first problem. We have this a minus b scenario. So I'm going to multiply it by the conjugate, which is going to be, I don't need to put the 4's in. I'm just going to put square root of x plus square root of x plus delta x. You could put the 4's in, it just makes it messier later on. And so I also have to multiply the denominator by this. The numerator, therefore, becomes simpler because that's just going to be a squared minus b squared. So limit of delta x approaching 0, or getting smaller and smaller, and you're going to get 4x minus 4x plus delta x. Okay, in the denominator, you're going to get delta x, and this is going to be times the square root of x times the square root of x plus delta x times square root of x plus square root of x plus delta x. Phew! Now, what happens here is I'm going to go ahead and clean up the numerator. And if you forgive me, I'm not going to write the denominator just yet. If I clean up the numerator, I'm going to get 4x minus 4x minus delta x. So we're left with just delta x on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. This is all, no I'm not. So this is going to be negative delta x. I'll write on the next slide. So we're going to have negative delta x okay, and then we're going to get, let's see, oh, let me go back here. I forgot to distribute the 4, so that's going to be negative 4 delta x. Okay, so we have negative 4 delta x, and then I'm going to do delta x times the square root of x times the square root of x plus delta x, okay, times the square root of x plus the square root of x plus delta x. All right. So the limit as delta x approaches 0. Now what happens here is the delta x's cancel. So let's clean this up, make it better. Delta x approaches 0, and you're going to have negative 4 over all this stuff. So which is going to be square root of x, square root of x plus delta x, and then we have square root of x plus square root of x plus delta x. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and plug in the 0, so you're going to get this equals negative 4 over this 0. If these are zeros, this is going to go away and this is going to go away. So basically what you get is square root of x times the square root of x times the square root of x plus square root of x. Okay, well this just equals x. Square root of x times square root of x is x. So it's negative 4 over x. And then this is 2 of those, so that's times 2 square root of x. Well, 2 goes into negative 4 negative 2 times. So I'm going to get negative 2 over x square root of x. And that's all. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.